guys. We are at page 10.
Page
Last
10.
headword was correspondence, newer type of lesson.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with our revision. Okay, let me just scroll down.
Yes. Okay.
Go one more. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
so
ready. Yeah.
first question. Does the government in your country contribute funds towards the education of university students? Does the government in your country contribute funds towards
Fund
the education of
education.
university students?
Students.
Yes or no?
Yes.
The government
The
in my
government
country
in my country
contributes funds
contribute funds
towards the
toward
education
the
of
education
university
of
students.
university students.
Very good. What percentage of working adults in your country do you reckon make regular contributions to a pension
Contribution to
fund?
a pension.
What percentage of working adults in your country do you reckon make regular contributions to a pension fund? I reckon about
I reckon about 60%
of
of
working adults
working
in my
adults
country
in my
make
country
regular
make
contributions
regular
to a
contributions
pension
to
fund.
a pension funds.
Very good. What are the various factors that contribute to a person's job satisfaction? What are the various factors that contribute to a person's job satisfaction? The various
The
factors
various
that
factors
contribute
that
to a
contribute
person's
to
job
a person's job
satisfaction are the type
satisfaction
of work
are the
they
type
do,
of work they do,
their payment level,
their payment
their
level,
chances of
the chances of motion,
promotion, the
chances of
location of
promotion,
their
the
workplace,
location, the workplace,
the quality of
the
management,
quality of management,
etc.
etc.
Very good. If you were a business owner, what would your policy be on staff using their personal mobile
Using the
phones at
personal
work?
mobile phones at
If
work.
you were a business owner, what would your policy be on staff using their personal mobile phones at work? If I were a business
If I
owner,
were a business
my
owner,
policy on
my
staff
policy on staff
using their personal
using the
mobile phones
personal
at work
mobile phone at
would
work
be that cell
would be
phone
that a
cannot
cell
be used
phone
on
cannot be
company
used
time
on company
aside
times,
from breaks and
aside from
lunch.
breaks and lunch.
Very good. Why are insurance policies so often long and difficult to understand?
Difficult to
Why are
understand.
insurance policies so often long and difficult to understand?
You understand?
Insurance policies
Insurance
are often
policies
long
are often
and
long
difficult
and difficult
because
because
they are many
there are
important
many
details
important
that need
details
explaining.
that need explaining.
Very good. Do you think the expression honesty is the best policy should be applied in every business situation? Do you think the expression honesty is the best policy should be applied in every business situation? Yes or no?
Yes,
I think the
I think
expression
the expressions
honesty is the best
honesty is the
policy
best
should be
policy
applied
should
in
be
every
applied
business
in every
situation.
business situation.
Why? Why do you think so? Because
Because uh, honesty is being because honesty wait a moment because
what will happen to your
honesty
business?
yeah, honesty is the first priority
Mhm.
thing for business.
That's correct. First priority, and you will gain more customers if you're honest.
I
They
think I
will
will
trust you.
gain
Very good.
more customers, yeah, if
Very good.
we have honesty.
Very good. Okay, next. Do you usually have to pay a surcharge if you want something you bought online to be delivered more quickly than normal?
Quickly than normal.
Do you usually have to pay a surcharge if you want something you bought online to be delivered
Bottom line
more
to be
quickly than
delivered more
normal?
quickly than normal.
Yes, I
Yes,
usually have
I
to
usually
pay a
have to
surcharge
pay a
if
surcharge
I want
if
something
I
I
want
bought
something I
online
bought
to be
online
delivered
to be
more
delivered
quickly than
more
normal.
quickly than normal.
Very good. In a situation where a company has both a
Company
CEO and
both a
general
CEO and
manager,
general
which
manager,
position is more senior?
more
In a
senior.
situation where a company has both a
Company
CEO
has
and
both a
general
CEO.
manager, which position is more senior? In a situation
In a
where a
situation
company
where a
has both
company
a
has both
CEO
a
and a
CEO
general
and
manager,
a general
the
manager,
position
the
of
position
CEO
of
is more
CEO
senior.
is the more senior.
Which of these two executives is responsible for the overall strategy of the company and which is responsible for operation?
For operation.
Which of these two executives is responsible for the overall strategy of the company And which is responsible
Which
for
is responsible for
operations?
operation?
The CEO
The
is
CEO
responsible
is
for the
responsible
overall
for the
strategy,
overall strategies,
whereas the general
whereas
manager
the general
is
manager is
responsible for
responsible
operation.
for operations.
Very good. When might we find that a company has more than one general manager? When might we find that a company has more than one general manager? We might find
We might
that a
find
company
that a
has
company
more than
has
one
more than
general manager.
one more general
One
manager.
more, we might find
We might
that a
find
company
that a
has more
company
than one
has more than one
general manager
general
when
manager.
the company is
When the
very
company is
large.
very
Each
large,
general manager
each general
will be
managers
responsible
will
for
be
different
responsible
aspects
for different
of the
aspects
company's
of the
operations.
company's operations.
Very good. Why do tickets for certain sporting events, concerts, etc. sell at
Concept,
very high
etc., sell at
prices?
very high
Why do
prices.
tickets for certain sporting events, concerts, etc. sell at very high prices? Tickets for certain
Tickets
sporting
for certain
events,
sporting event,
concerts, etc.
concerts, etc.,
sell at very high
sell at
prices
very high
because
prices
the demand
because
for
the
the
demand
tickets is
for the
very
ticket
high
is very
and the
high
supply is
and the
limited.
supply is limited.
What's another way of saying that the supply of a product is limited? What's another way of saying that the supply of a product is limited? Another way of
Another
saying
way of
that the
saying
supply
that
of a
the
product
supply
is
of a
limited
product is
is to
limited
say
is to
that
say
the product is
that
in
the
short
product is
supply.
in short supply.
Bring it one more. Another way of saying
Another way of
that the
saying
supply of a
that the
product
supply
is
of a
limited
product is limited
is to say that
is
the
to say
product
that
is in
the
short
product
supply.
is in short supply.
Very good. Thinking about a person's career path, what's one advantage of becoming a specialist in a particular field? Thinking about a person's career path, what's one advantage of becoming a specialist in a particular field?
In a particular field.
Thinking about a
Thinking
person's
about a
career path,
person's career path,
one advantage
one
of
advantage
becoming a
of
specialist
becoming a
in a
specialist
particular
in
field
a particular
is that a
field
person
is
can
that the
earn a
person
lot
can
of
earn
money
a lot of
if
money
the work they
if the work
specialize
they
is in
specialize
high
is
demand.
in high demand.
Right? And tell me a possible disadvantage of being a specialist. And tell me a possible disadvantage of being a specialist, please. A possible
A
disadvantage
possible
of being a
disadvantage of
specialist
being a
is that
specialist
it can be
is that
difficult
it can be
to
difficult
change a
to
career
change a
if the
career
demand for a
if the
particular
demand for a
specialist
particular
skill set
specialist skill set
disappears.
disappear
Very good. Okay, next, name a commodity that most countries in your part of the world have to import from other regions.
from other regions.
Name a commodity that most countries in your
Most of
part of the
countries
world
in
have to import from other regions. Oil is a
oil
commodity
is a
that
commodity
most
that
countries
most
in my part
countries
of the
in
world
my part of the
have to
world
import from
have to
other
import
countries.
from other countries.
Very good. What do you think your country's most lucrative export is? What do you think your country's most lucrative export is? I think
Exported.
my
I think
country's most
my
lucrative
country's most
export
lucrative
is
exports is cars.
very good. Which country is the which country in the world do you reckon has the biggest domestic car market? Which country in the world do you reckon has the biggest domestic car market? I reckon Japan
Uh, I reckon Japan,
has the
US,
biggest
US,
biggest car market.
US,
Yeah,
US
okay,
has a
domestic.
biggest.
Okay, one more.
Uh, a domestic
Domestic, like
has.
only in the like your own country.
So it's a the area of Japan.
Hmm. Very good. Okay.
Ah,
So I
okay.
reckon Japan
I reckon Japan
has the biggest
has
domestic
the biggest domestic
car market.
car market
Yeah, so it's like competing only around Japan, domestic only,
only around
not
Japan. Okay.
international.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. And which car manufacturer do you think has the highest global sale? And which car manufacturer do you think has the highest global sales? I
Sales.
think
I think Toyota
has the highest
has
global
the
sales.
highest global sales.
Very good. What kind of business person is an entrepreneur? What kind of business
Kind of
is
person.
what kind of business person is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur
An
is a
entrepreneur
business person
is a
who
business
starts
person
their own
who
business
starts their own
and
business
accept the risk
and
that
accepts the
this
risk
involves.
that this involves.
Very good. Okay. When we submit a job application, what documentation do we normally send? Do we usually send? When we submit a job
Submit a job
application, what
application.
documentation do we usually send?
Send.
When we submit
when
A
we
job
submit a
application.
job
We
application,
usually send
we
our
usually send
CV
our CV
together with a cover
together
letter.
with a cover letter.
Very good. Okay, next. For a meeting at work, why is it useful to have an agenda? For a meeting at work, why is it useful to have an agenda? For a meeting at
For a
work,
meeting at
it's
work,
useful to
it's
have an
useful to
agenda
have an
to
agenda
ensure that
to ensure
everything
that
is discussed
everything is
in a
discussed
logical
in
order,
a logical
that
order,
important
that
issues are
important
not
issues
forgotten,
are not
and that
forgotten,
people stay
and that
focused.
people stay focused.
Very good. Why is an agenda normally circulated to people a few days before the meeting takes
Before the
place?
meeting takes place.
Why is an agenda normally circulated to people a few days before the meeting takes place? An agenda is normally
Agenda is
circulated
normally circulated
to people a few
to
days
people a few
before a
days
meeting
before a
takes
meeting
place
takes
so that
place,
everyone
so that
can think
everyone
about the
can think
items on
about
the
the
agenda
items on the agenda
as for other items
as
to
for
be
other items
added if necessary,
to be added if necessary,
etc.
etc. Okay.
Very good. Okay. Do you personally believe it's better to build a career in the public sector or the private sector? Do you personally believe it's better to build a career in the public sector or the private sector? I personally believe
I personally
it's
believe
better to build a
it's better
career
to build a
in
career
the
in the private sector.
why? Why do you think so? Because
Because in the private sector, they have a variety of competitor, so they can improve their skills surrounded by such a severe condition, business situation.
business situation. Very good. They have like a lot of like to improve their skill. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Name a country that's experiencing rapid growth in its economy at the moment. Name a country that's experiencing rapid growth in its economy at the moment.
India
Is a country
is a
that's
country
experiencing
that
rapid
experiences
growth in its
rapid growth
economy at
in
the
its
moment.
economy at the moment.
Very good. Okay, next. Which of the following two job titles correspond more closely to CEO? General manager or managing
General
director?
Manager
Which
Director,
of the following two job titles corresponds more closely to
corresponding
CEO?
CEO,
General manager or managing director?
Managing
The
Director.
job title
The
that
job titles
corresponds
that
more
correspond
closely to
more
CEO
closely to
is
CEO
managing
is
director.
Managing Director.
In what situation might a business choose to correspond by sending letter rather than an email? In what situation might a business choose to correspond by sending a letter rather than an email? A business might
A
choose
business
to
might choose
correspond
to
by
correspond
sending a letter
by sending a
rather
letter
than an email
rather than an
when the
email when the
correspondence needs
correspondence
to appear very
need to
formal
appear very
or
formal
official.
or official.
Very good. And that's the end of our revision. Let's have new work.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, repeat. Health and safety.
Health and safety,
Workforce.
workforce,
Statutory.
statutory,
Meet an obligation.
midterm obligation.
Very good. Okay, listen. For example, it's the government's job to ensure health
Job
and
to
safety for
ensure
the
health and
people.
safety for the people.
Workforce is a noun.
Workforce
It is a
is a
group
noun.
of people who
Group of
work for
people
a
who
particular
work for
organization
a
or
particular
business.
organization or business.
For example, the increase of workforce in a country helps the country to develop.
Help the country to develop.
Statutory is an adjective. It
Statutory
means
is an
of
adjective.
or relating to formal
Relating
laws
to
or
formal laws
statute
or
statutes.
statute.
For example,
State.
citizens in a country have the statutory right to get their
Statutory right
benefits
to
as
get
soon
the
as they
benefit
retire.
as soon as they retire.
Meet an obligation means something that you must do because of
You
the
have to
law,
do because of
rule, promise, etc.
promises,
For
etc.
example, in my country, there's a statutory obligation for businesses to maintain good
To
standard
maintain
for health and
good standard
safety for
for
their
health and
workforce.
safety for the workforce.
Let's practice. In your country, is there a statutory obligation for businesses to maintain good standards of health and safety for their workforce?
For the
In your
workforce.
country, is there a statutory obligation for businesses to maintain good standards of health and safety for their workforce? Yes. In my
Yes,
country,
In my
There's a
country,
statutory
there is a
obligation
statutory
for
obligation
businesses to
for
maintain
businesses
good
to
standards
maintain good
of health and
standards
safety
of health and
for their
safety
workforce.
for their workforce.
Very good. And if workers feel their employer isn't meeting their obligation in this area, what can they
This
do?
area, what can
And
they
if
do?
workers feel their employer isn't meeting their obligation in this area, what can they do? If workers
If
feel their
workers
employer
feel their
isn't
employer
meeting their
isn't meeting
obligations
their
in this
obligation
area,
in this
they
area,
can complain to
they
the
can
management.
complain to the management,
Very good. Okay, next repeat. Break even.
break even.
Very good. Okay, listen. Break even. Okay, listen. Break even. When we say that a business breaks even, we
Business
mean that
breaks
its
even. We
income
mean
is just enough
its
to cover
income
its
just
cost
enough to cover
and
its
it
cost
avoids making a loss.
about
For
making a loss.
example, I'd feel pleased if a new business broke
New
even
business
if its
broke
first
even
year of trading.
first year of training.
Let's practice. How would you feel if your business broke even in its first year of trading?
First
How would you feel if your new business broke
new
even if
business
its
broke
first
even
year of trading?
first year
I'd
of
feel
trading. I feel I feel surprised
if my new business
if my
broke
new
even
business broke
in
even
its first year
in
of
his
trading.
first year of trading.
Why? Why? Because.
Because uh, in the at the first year,
Mhm.
they need uh, initial cost to start up a business.
That's correct.
So it's difficult to get to be in the to be in the black
To be in the profit
to be in the profit in the first year
first
of
year.
their business. Yeah.
That's correct because first year you're just like gaining what you spend, right? You're
Yeah, yeah.
very good. Okay, next, repeat economic,
Economic,
economical.
economical
Very good. Okay, listen. Economic is an adjective. The
adjective.
word economic means related
Related
to money or the
money
economy.
or the
For
economy.
example, we can say that country has severe
The country
economic
has severe
problems.
economic problems.
Economical is an adjective.
It's an
The
adjective.
word economical,
The
on
word
the other hand,
economical,
means
on the other
providing
hand,
good
means
value
providing
or
good values
requiring less
or
money than usual.
requiring less money than usual.
For example, we can say the car costs quite a lot to buy,
Quite a lot
but
to
it's
buy.
very economical to run.
Very economical to.
Let's
Mm.
practice. What's the difference between the words economic and economical? What's the difference between the
What's
words
between
economic and
economic and
economical?
economical?
The difference
The
between
difference
the
between
words
the word
economic and
economic and
economical is
economical
that
is
economic
that
means
economic means
related to money
related to
or the
money
economy,
or the economy,
whereas economical
whereas
means
economical means
providing good value
providing good
or
values
requiring less
or
money
requiring
than
less
usual.
money than usual.
Give me an example of the word economic. Give me an example of the word economic, please.
Economic
The
means
government's
the
new
government's
economic policy
new economic policy
seems to be working.
seems to be working,
And now, give me an example of
and
economical.
uh,
Now, give me an example of economical, please. He kept his
he
central
kept
heating
his
on. He kept his central heating on
okay, he kept his central heating on
all the time
all
because
the time
he
because
believes it's
he
more
believes it's
economical.
more economical.
Very good. Next, read full time,
Whole time,
part time contract,
part time,
part time contract,
part time contract,
terminate.
terminate.
Very good. Okay, listen. When talking about jobs, people sometimes confuse the adjectives time and
Full
permanent
time and
and the
permanent.
adjective part time and
Part
temporary.
time, temporary,
The difference is that full time and part time
part time,
indicate the number of hours a person
number of
works each
person
week,
each week.
whereas permanent and
Permanent
temporary
and
tells us whether
temporary
an
tells
employee's
whether
contract
employee
terminates after a
contract
certain period or not.
certificate or not.
If you work 16 hours a week, you have a part time job. If your contract only lasts for 2 months, you have a
2 months,
temporary job.
a temporary job.
Okay, let's
Mm.
practice. Do the adjectives full-time and part-time have the same meaning as the adjectives permanent and temporary? Do the adjective full-time and part-time have the same meaning as the adjective and
The
permanent
adjective
and temporary?
temporary.
No. The
No,
adjectives
the adjectives
full-time and
full time
part-time
and part
don't
time
have the same
don't
meaning
have the same
as the
meaning,
adjectives permanent,
same
well,
meaning.
as the
Okay.
adjective
Uh, as the adjectives
permanent and
permanent
temporary.
and temporary.
Very good. One more. No,
Okay.
the
No,
adjectives
the
full-time
adjectives
and
full time
part-time
and part time
don't have the same
don't
meaning
have the same
as
meanings
the adjectives
as the
permanent
adjectives
and
permanent
temporary.
and temporary.
What's the difference? What's the difference then? The difference is that
The difference is
full-time
that
and
full
part-time
time and part
indicate the
time
number of
indicates the
hours
number
a
of
person
hours
works
a
each week,
person works each week,
whereas permanent and
whereas permanent
temporary
and
tells
temporary
us whether an
tells us
employee's
whether
contract
an employee's contract
terminate after a certain
terminate after
period
a
or not.
certain period or not.
Very good. Next, a bit terminology.
Terminology,
Very good. Or terminology.
terminology,
Term.
term,
In terms.
in terms,
Clarify.
clarify.
Very good. Okay, listen. Terminology is a noun. It refers to
No,
special words or phrases
so as
that are
basis
used in a particular
used in
field.
a particular field.
For example, it's hard for someone who doesn't work in business
Doesn't
to
work in
understand
business to
business
understand
terminology.
business terminology.
Term is a noun. It is the word or phrase that has an exact meaning. For
Exact meaning.
example, if I were speaking to a computer expert and they use a term I weren't sure
Term,
about,
what
I'd
is
ask for the meaning of the term.
the term?
In terms is used to indicate
Used
the
to
specific
indicate
thing
the
that is
specific
being
thing that
described,
is being
thought
described,
of, etc.
thought of, etc.
It also means the condition or rule
Condition
that
or
limits something, such as
limit
an
something.
agreement or a
Agreement,
contract, the things that
contract,
must be agreed upon or something to
or
happen
something
or
to happen.
continue.
Continue.
For example, in economic terms, I think Japan is the country in the world that has the high is the healthiest.
Resist.
Number two, I always ensure that I read all the terms
Read all the
in
terms
every contract I
in
sign.
every contract time.
Okay. Next, clarify is a verb. It means to make
Uh,
something easier to
make something
understand,
easier to
to make
understand.
something clear. Okay,
Clear.
let's practice. Is it hard for someone who doesn't work in business to understand business terminology? Is it
Terminology.
hard for someone who doesn't work in business to understand business terminology?
Terminology.
Yes, it's hard
Yes,
for
it's
someone
hard for
who
someone
doesn't work in
who doesn't
business
work in
to
business
understand
to
business
understand the
terminology.
business terminology.
But if you were speaking on a computer expert and they use a term you weren't sure about,
You want
would
to
you ask them to clarify the meaning of the term or would you ignore it? If you were speaking to a computer
to a
expert and
computer
they use a
expert.
term you weren't
Use
sure
a
about,
term.
would you ask them to clarify the meaning of the term or would you ignore it? If I were speaking
If
to
you
a
are
computer
speaking to a
expert
computer
and
expert
they used a
and
term
they use
I
the
weren't
terms
sure
I
about,
weren't sure about,
I'd
I'd ignore
I'd
him,
ignore it.
ignore it.
Very good. In economic terms, which country in the world do you think is the healthiest? In economic terms, which
Good
country in the
terms.
world do you think is the healthiest? In economic
In
terms,
economic
I
terms,
think
I think US
is the country in the
is a
world
country in
that
the
is
world
the healthiest.
that is the healthiest.
Where do you always ensure that you read all the terms of every contract you sign? Do you always ensure that you read all the terms of every contract you sign? Yes or no?
No,
I don't always
I
ensure
don't always
that I
ensure
read all the
that I read
terms
all the
of
terms
every contract
of
I
every
sign.
contract I signed.
Why not? Why not? Because
Because um, it might take a lot of time to read all the contracts.
very good. That's correct. It's very long.
Yeah.
Okay. Next will be
De- mm, wait,
department,
department,
consumer,
consumer,
customer service,
customer service,
sales,
sales,
marketing,
marketing,
call center.
call center.
Very good. Okay, listen. Department is a noun. It is one of the major parts of a company, organization, government, or school.
That's
For
correct.
example, your letter has been forwarded to
Has been
our sales
forwarded to
department.
our sales department.
Consumer is a noun. It is a person
Consumer
who buys goods and
person who buys
services.
goods and
For
services.
example, many customers are still
Many
not
customers
comfortable
are
making
still
purchases
comfortable
on the
making
internet.
purchases on the internet.
Customer service is a group that deals with the
Group that
needs of the
deals with the
customer.
needs of the
For
customer.
example, if a customer needs to clarify
Needed to
something, they need
clarify
to
something.
contact
They need
directly
to
the
contact
customer
the
service
director
in
that
charge.
in charge.
Okay, but we stop there for
Ah,
today. But
okay.